Well, yeah, thank you everyone for joining us here today. I'm Matt Hammond. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at Pathify. Have been with the company for about 4.5 years at this point, so a bit of time. And in my role, sort of day to day, I'm responsible for customer success, marketing, and sales at Pathify. Um, that's me. Karen, I'll hand it to you.
Okay, thanks, Matt. My name is Karen May. I'm the Director of Enterprise Systems and Application Development at Lindenwood University. My team is responsible for implementing new technology, integrating between all of the applications that we use system-wide at Lindenwood, and also customer support for our user community.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. Great to see you again, and really looking forward to this conversation. So today we're going to focus on a topic that is very much top of mind here at Pathify right now, and I think also for a lot of schools, just based on the feedback that we're getting out in market, and that is SIS transition. So Pathify has actually spent a ton of time out on the road at conferences and events and things of that nature here in the first half of this year. And it's been really interesting to kind of hear this consistent theme that there's a lot of schools that are actually in the process of transitioning their SIS at the moment, whether that is, maybe moving to the cloud with an existing vendor that they've been working with for a while, or whether they're doing more of an RFP process to sort of test the waters and see what else is out there. Or if they're actually just kind of beginning the process of thinking about transitioning SISs, it's something that seems to be very much top of mind for a lot of folks right now. This presents interesting challenges at times for Pathify, because obviously transitioning your SIS is going to be one of the bigger technology projects a school is going to focus on. And that might mean it's going to take up nearly all the resources and time and effort. But I think one of the things we've been having conversations with schools about is really around, would it make sense for an institution to really focus in on updating the front end experience for students and staff and faculty prior to actually kind of pulling the trigger on the SIS initiative, or focusing in on that. And I think we would contend that if you are focused on and fix the front end experience first, that may provide you a little bit more flexibility as you kind of work through the evaluation process and making a decision on where you want to go for your next SIS. So anyway, that's kind of broadly a conversation we've been having with a lot of schools, and something we'll sort of zoom in and out of here during our conversation today. But I think, why don't we just kind of start at the beginning, Karen? And I'd love to know a little bit more about some of the transition that Lindenwood has gone through over the past several years as it relates to SIS. Maybe just set the stage for us a little bit.
Sure. Our student information system, when I first joined Lindenwood 7 years ago, was CAMS Unit 4, on-prem hosted, and we had just started the process of moving to Workday as a student information system. And if, for anyone that knows Workday's history, doing the math there, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when we were looking at doing that, they were just beginning to put out their student information system, just building it. So that was a little bit bleeding edge, and we ended up abandoning that project 2 years into it, because the product really wasn't ready for a 4-year private university that had 6,000 plus students, and that number is not our FTE or anything. It's just a break point. So 4 years ago, I believe, we did an RFP for a new student information system, and we were really looking for something that would be cloud focused, not just moving our existing system to a cloud, but actually building a system that was made for the cloud, that could grow with whatever cloud technology it was built on. And so we've gone to, we decided on Anthology for our student information system and started that move in 21, 22, went live at the end of 22. And so we've been an Anthology student for about a year and a half now, just about a year and a half. And that was, it was definitely the largest implementation I've done in my career in higher ed IT, which is about going on 20 years now. And I really don't want to do it again ever. But I think we're good on this system. We're getting used to it. We were on CAMS for close to 10 years. So it's a lot of change for everyone that works with every student at the university. And we're working through that. It's a little rocky, to be honest, but we're starting to get to a place where we're comfortable with how can we expand this system? How can we integrate more things into it ourselves? And how can we do more things without relying on Anthology support quite as much? And we're starting to get much more comfortable with it.
Great. That does feel like a pretty aggressive timeline to get through it in about a year is what it sounds like. So
yeah, it was just under 18 months from signing the contract to going live. And that included 6 months of working with them to blueprint the move in general, and then 12 months of implementation. It was really short timeline. Yeah.
Impressive, I would say. And Anthology is a great partner of ours. They're a strategic partner of ours. So we were obviously happy that you were moving in that direction, and they're a great company. So I'm glad to hear that you're getting some of the kinks worked out right now, and things are starting to work the way you'd like them to. I guess maybe also set the stage for us as this is all unfolding. What was the portal situation at Lindenwood? How did that ecosystem look?
When we were on CAMS, we didn't really have a unified portal for students and staff and faculty to use. We had a way to log it on our web page. We had links to all of the things that you could log into as an end user. So email and our LMS and the HR system and the finance system, everything was its own link in the top bar of our regular web page. So people would go there, click the link that they needed, bookmark it, hopefully get signed in, and and as we were looking at student information systems, we were also looking at a unified portal so that all of those links could be brought in behind SSO in a single place without having to re-log into every system every time you touch it, or rely on SSO to actually float that token from one application to another. So we started looking at a portal product, and as you know, we picked Pathify. And the implementation for that was actually at right about the same time that we had chosen Anthology. At the time, we didn't know how well it would integrate with Anthology, but it's worked out really well in the end. But we wanted the portal implemented before we stood up a new student information system, because our portal for CAMS for student and faculty was the CAMS provided portal. We didn't want to introduce another student portal and faculty portal that needed to be logged into, and then a unified portal after that. So we really wanted to get the portal situation settled before we launched the new student information system for everyone to work in. And that did work out well for us.
Yeah, I think, from a strategy perspective, I think one of the things that we hear is faculty and staff, they can be one of the hardest cohorts to sort of move from one system to the next one. And so it sounds like there might have been some strategy involved there where we're just going to do this once as opposed to having to do it multiple times.
Yeah, and with that, we really didn't want to retrain them for two different new portals, right? So with the implementation of Pathify as my Lindenwood portal, we were able to actually bring in the student and faculty portal links for those cohorts to be able to get to whatever they needed in anthology right out of that main portal, along with the HR portal and the housing for students to get into StarRes and the other applications that we use, and access to our LMS. We were also able, with Pathify's portal, to set up the training pages for how to use that new student information system, which was really beneficial too. For both faculty and staff and students, we were able to set up some basic training information pages and links to the provided training from the vendor as well.
So maybe that actually speaks to the one of the points I made out of the gate around strategy, where it by surfacing a lot of that training content in a single place, that could actually help with the transition and the training for end users as you're making that SIS change.
Yeah, it really did help a lot with that. We also were able to put in some new student and new employee training in there as well. So we've got this page of general, here's how you get to the things that you need if you're a student or if you're a new employee at Lindenwood, which has been used a lot by all of our cohorts. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So I think, it sounded like the original situation, the legacy portal, very much kind of your traditional link farm that we certainly still see in action at a lot of schools. That is a pretty clear use case for Pathify. I think if you're looking to move away from kind of the treasure hunt associated to the link farm into maybe something that is more personalized and a little bit more germane to the user on any given day. I think one of the things that a lot of the schools we're talking to are grappling with right now as they consider where they want to go with their SIS is that most of the SIS companies have their own portals or portlets or capabilities for students. And so I'm curious, I know a lot of schools and certainly we would promote kind of a better together story, in the sense that we're not necessarily going to replace everything, but maybe there's some things we are. Maybe just talk to me a little bit about some of the differences you see between what Pathify does and maybe some of the more native capabilities and SIS brings forward.
So we're watching your roadmap a lot. And I see that you're working more with Anthology to bring in more of the things that students do in the student portal, which I think is going to be a great benefit in the long run. Some of the things that we can surface in Pathify right now are things that get a little confusing when we look at them in the native student portal. Finances is a good example. How much do I owe? How much do I owe right now as a student on tuition and what I'm registering for in the fall, and I have a payment plan, and all of those numbers added together. What's the bottom line? What do I have to pay you? Is one of the hardest things to see in the student portal on the SIS. So we've done some math in the background and are presenting them a widget in Pathify that just says, here's last term, here's this term, here's your financial aid, here's what's coming up, here's your bottom line. If you don't have a payment plan right now, this is what you're going to owe us. Go schedule it, and it makes, there are a lot of things that we can do like that just make it simpler to see at a glance, and then link it to what they need to see in the student portal for the SIS to be able to go directly to pay my bill, to get to the next system where they can set up a payment plan or make that payment. So things like that I find really beneficial from the unified portal, that they can see the LMS and the classes and what's due today. Yep. And they can see, here's my bill and what I owe. And it doesn't matter if I'm a double major or if I have, an undergrad program today and I'm going into graduate next term. That total is there of what they've registered for and what they still owe. What financial aid is kicking in along the way, it gets put into that little widget So those kinds of things can be surfaced at a quick glance for them in the widgets and in the links on Pathify.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the things I've certainly felt over the years is that obviously these SISs are extraordinarily powerful systems and databases with just so much information, right? And that that's important for administrators to be able to access all that. And administrators are going to get really specialized training in how to use the SIS and how to operate. It sounds like that's you're going through that right now with Anthology. But do we really want the students in there trying to find things? And so it sort of sounds like maybe you're pulling out a magnifying glass onto the key things that a student would need to see from an SIS, and that could be time sensitive as well, that
Yeah.
you're able to do that in a personalized fashion at the right time. So maybe that's just a benefit is, can we actually make a student use the SIS better by simplifying it a little bit?
Yeah, that is one of the benefits there. Yeah.
Okay. But then, extending out beyond, some of the self-service capabilities, you just touched on it a little bit. I think, our goal is really to get integrated in with the whole tech stack and not just the SIS. And so maybe talk to us about some of the other systems that you're pulling data into Pathify that are organized in a personalized way for students.
Sure. And we do it for students and employees.
Yep.
Because Pathify has the flexibility for us to be able to set roles on each account, and we can do that through the user feed in the first place. We're able to say, this is an employee, this is a faculty employee, this is a staff employee, this is a student online or on ground, and be able to really surface content based on that group. So we can say, online students, here's your class in the LMS, here's your email, here's your, your billing. And that's really all they need because they're online students. And students that are residents on campus, we've added also the access to the housing application to be able to, make sure that they've got their room and meal plan already set up. And all of having the roles, being able to apply those roles at the student, at the user level, and then being able to apply those roles on individual pieces of content that we're surfacing really makes it a personalized experience for our user community.
That, just as an aside, was one of the first things I noticed about Pathify early on when I was sort of working at the company, that just the depth and breadth of capabilities associated to roles. I mean, it's sort of almost infinite, which I think, if implemented correct, does certainly lead to a highly personalized experience. So I've always felt that that's a big advantage for us. So yeah, and I think, just to reiterate, we want to kind of be the one portal that sits on top of all the other portals and all the different experiences. And when it makes sense to link into a system so that someone can actually get something done, we'll do that. When it makes sense to surface data from that system so it's at a glance and they're aware of it, we'll do that. And certainly also want to kind of consolidate all the communications together if we can. I'm curious how that's played out for Lindenwood. Has that been an advantage?
The communications part, yes, definitely. We use the announcements a lot in Pathify we have actually tied in our emergency alert system. We use Rave, but it's easily integrated into Pathify so that, especially over this past month, every tornado warning has been pushed through Pathify to students' phones if they have the mobile app.
Yeah.
And if they're on-ground students in this area, or commuter students in this area. We don't necessarily need to push those to our online population, right? Because they're not near the campus. And the same for staff. And so we've got that announcement there that we can use that automatically feeds in from Rave.
Yep.
And automatically feeds in the all clear once whatever has passed.
Yeah.
We also use the system for maintenance outages, and these things are happening on campus, and we're working on expanding that use as well to just general calendar events and things going on, and what do we need to communicate to the students about life on campus today. One of the other things that we brought into Pathify is all of our calendars. So we have the academic calendar, the events calendar, the athletic calendar, our employee training calendar. All of those are in the events area of Pathify. So any end user can find what they need that's going on campus today, or schedule something based on what's going on tomorrow, along with the calendar that comes in from the LMS in the LMS widget.
It would be interesting to do some kind of engagement tracking with all of that now that it's consolidated, to see if that, maybe that improved visibility has actually resulted in people engaging more with events, right?
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Maybe we can have a follow-up conversation on that.
Yeah.
Obviously, the connected student is going to be persistent. So
Exactly. Yeah.
we could do a little research project on that. But okay, so I think I want to shift gears here in a minute toward just kind of what it's like working with us and how the experience has been. But I'm curious, like, any other thoughts around or suggestions or coaching you would provide schools as they're considering making this big transition in terms of the SIS, things that come to mind maybe that you learned along the way?
I think the main thing that we learned was we really made that decision to put this portal in front of the SIS implementation so that we didn't have to retrain over and over again. And
Yep.
now one of the things that we do specifically is drive students to this portal. When we send a new student, hey, you're admitted, here's your username and your login, go to my Lindenwood and log in there first. That's how you get to everything. And when we're doing staff orientation, new employee orientation, it's the same thing. Our HR team drives people to my Lindenwood to log in and access all the tools that they need. And so that communication to our community up front as they're entering has really driven the usage of this tool, of this portal. So, and we can see that in the access numbers and in the number of accounts that are active at any particular time. So we have a very large adjunct population, and even our adjuncts know to go in through Pathify to get to the faculty portal so that they can enter grades, things like that. So, yeah.
Well, some of those things like orientation, some of those processes, I know you said you're paying close attention to our roadmap. We're really excited to be working on journey mapping. I know a lot of schools have different names for it, but that is something that, second half of this year and going into next year, we're really going to be working on to hopefully provide an even tighter framework for some of those processes like orientation. So that was an aside, but I guess then maybe kind of shifting gears a little bit. One of the things I think a lot of people don't realize about Pathify, I can't speak for other implementations, but we've implemented Pathify for schools that want to go really aggressively in less than 8 weeks. I mean, there's been a few schools that have really pushed us on that. There are other schools that kind of want to take their time with it. It's really kind of up to them, the process that we follow. But I guess maybe if you could speak a bit to just kind of the initial work you were doing with Pathify and implementation.
Yeah, sure. I think our implementation was scheduled for either 12 or 16 weeks.
Yep.
I can't quite, I feel like it was around 4 months. I can't quite remember, and I didn't look that up before I joined this, sorry. But it was very well managed by the Pathify project manager. So that we didn't have to do a lot of the project management on our end, which was really great at that time, because obviously we were jumping into the SIS implementation at the same time, so our PMs were kind of busy over there. And so working with Pathify during the implementation was very smooth, and very well guided. We had, tasks that we were to do related to creating pages, creating widgets, creating, our menus and tools, and making sure that our page was built out based on your best practices, which really helped guide us in what we wanted to bring in. And it gave us a good view into the whole system. At the same time, we had folks on my team working on implementing the integrations in the background. So we got into the widget building area of the tool, and the name escapes me at the moment.
Flow.
I'm sorry, the flow. Yes,
the flow middleware. Yep.
Yeah, getting into the flow area, and just building out those widgets and seeing what the potential was for later growth was really eye-opening. We had a lot of one-on-one work with your developers, which helped us learn a lot about that flow server and how we could build on and improve whatever we were starting at the time. So, and support after that has been really responsive. Every ticket that we've entered has been responded to within a few hours, and we've had an answer within a day. On the ones that were urgent, they were resolved very quickly. So we have no complaints basically about working with Pathify. It's been a good experience, a very good experience for our university.
That's great to hear. Yeah, the 3 to 4 month timeline associated to implementation, that very much lines up with our standard implementation process that we take schools through. Obviously, we'll tailor make that based on the school's individual needs, but it is typically going to be in that time frame. So it sounded like the implementation process was pretty smooth. You talked about how support has been good. How about just like the ongoing relationship? I mean, I'll just shamelessly ask, I mean, is Pathify a company that you'd recommend to your peers?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We've had constant communication, and we even have a monthly touch base with our customer account rep.
Yep.
Where they present us with the new items that are coming up, what's on the roadmap, what's being released in the next release, and what things we can do to implement those. And that's been really helpful, so that we don't have to spend a lot of time reading through all of the release notes. They can give us kind of in a nutshell, here's what's coming next, and then we can go look at the release notes and find some other things if we need them. Which, with the way this year's been, as far as financial aid and all the things going on there, it's been really helpful not to have to read through documents from all of our vendors where, you guys are just bringing us that in the first place.
Well, that's good to hear. So I want to just encourage our audience to feel free to ask any questions. You can pop them in the chat. Questions for myself, questions for Karen. And also wanted to remind the group that we will be sending out a recording to all the attendees of the conversation here today. I guess any other thoughts, Karen, on the past few years? And I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot with that one, but anything else you think the group should hear that might be germane to this conversation?
Well, if you're making a move on a SIS, make sure you've got, it's so hard. I mean, it's a big topic, right? It's huge. It's everything that everyone touches related to your student, right? And I think one of the things that came out of first dealing with Workday and trying to get into their SIS and then moving to Anthology was a general understanding amongst all of our employees that it was time for us to be kind to each other and recognize that everyone's going through it, right? It's not singular to any one particular group or person. Everyone's going through it, and all of our jobs are being flipped on their heads one of the hardest things to get past is we always used to do it that way.
Yep.
Right. And this is a new system, a new technology. We need to find a new way to do it. I think the best thing that any school can do when they're looking at this is first outline your business processes, write them down, make sure you know how to do the job in the first place so that you can then adapt that job to the technology that's about to completely shift. Right. It's really important to do that and kind of get a guide for yourself of how you can get through this process with your employees still wanting to work here. That's kind of challenging.
I think that's great advice in a lot of situations where it's just to be mindful that we're all in this together and we're all going through it and we will get through it. And that sometimes big changes like this are actually an opportunity to review some of those big goals and to maybe move the needle on them. So I think that's fabulous advice. Well, I want to thank you so much, Karen May, for joining us here today. I'm not seeing any questions coming through. I think that's probably a great place to leave the conversation. As I said, we'll be sending out a recording to the group. I encourage anybody to respond with questions if you have them, either for myself or Karen. We can make sure that we get them over to her. But this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate the conversation.
Thanks, Matt. I'm happy to be here.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.